to everything, which was if I don't know if you ever watched Belugan's videos, but pretty much for most of his streams, basically they all ended with him nuking something.
I have watched a good amount of it. That was some of the first tutorials I watched when I started getting into Command. And I never met him, but seems like he knew how to have fun in Command.
Yeah, he's actually doing it for a living now. At least the last I heard, he's working for Warfare Sims now. So he literally turned the streaming into working.
Sounds pretty cool.
All right, well, even going at 15-second time excel, this isn't really. I don't want to go too fast, especially on stream, just because I know with stream lag, it's gonna, has a tendency to start just jumping. So I don't really want to go faster than this. Although, what I think I want to do.
You know what I wish this game had? A time acceleration that basically, as soon as you got a new contact, it paused for you.
Game options, I thought. Oh no, just raise. Essentially what you can do is you can use the if you go under the message log, and if you select the raise pop up, what'll happen is that'll actually pause the game, and then it'll give you the option to close the window, in which case it'll still be paused. I don't like doing that just because I really hate pop ups. But yeah, I do wish it would you could do that without needing to raise the pop up.
Yeah, I've always left those as default just because it would just be really hard if I wasn't alerted about missiles coming in, but everything else, it's just on me to pay attention.
See, I even turned off. The only thing I leave on is special messages. At least on the pop up. Everything else I leave just in the message log, because especially if you're in like a big air battle, I don't like it. Kind of ruins it for me to constantly see, hey, missile fired, missile detected, and you don't get anywhere. So I tend to leave it off.
Are you using your E3 as bait there, or your RE3?
No, I'm pushing about to see if I can get a little bit better sense of the radars over here.
Gotcha.
For those that don't know, this RE3A is not an AWACS. It's an E3A. Basically, it uses the E3A airframe, which I don't know how that varies from all the other 707 models, but it uses the E3A engines and airframe, and it's basically an RC-135, but with an E3A designation for whatever reason. Don't ask me. It's one of those.
So it's a 707 that doesn't have an AWACS tower on it, but has a similar name.
Yeah, it's from. I actually had to look it up. It's basically that.
It could be that uses the same internals sort of thing. It doesn't have
from what I can tell, it's the same. It's really the same engines as the E3A, but it's got RC-135 sort of hardware on it. So that's what I was able to tell from it. It doesn't. I still don't. I mean, maybe for procurement reasons they couldn't call it an RC-135. So I don't know, but. No, I'm actually not using him as bait. I'm just kind of having him go out because you can see they just turned on radars.
Gotcha.
So I'm just setting him out to see if I can actually get a fix on some radars, because it's been about an hour since I've had contact.
Yeah, that would be expensive bait, especially after you went through so much trouble to save them.
Yeah, that, and if I send him out here, maybe I can trigger some F-14s coming in on him. In which case, I have plenty of time to get him back over into Patriots cover and get some of my Eurofighters out there.
I would imagine an Eland aircraft to be the first to know that something was trying to get a lock on it.
Just looking at
Or
tankers over here. Looks like he's still got 15 hours of flying. One's got 6. All right, so missiles actually incoming. Got a little too close. Oh no, those might be Phoenixes. Nope, those are Sams. Never mind. Turn around and dive to the deck. Mid altitude. That flight crew is experiencing a little bit of 0G right now. Dive, dive, dive. That
are
missile's
you ready
actually
for a Jingles landing?
no. I find that it's actually that I have decent luck avoiding SAMs if I manually tell the aircraft to dive. So I'm hoping that these SAMs are gonna overfly. They're coming up. I'm going down. Ah, fuck. Well, shit. That was my own fault.
They might run out of gas before they get there. Those must be really
No,
long range otherwise.
I lost it. You'll see it in a minute. Thanks to the joys of stream lag. So I only have one other ELINT aircraft. I don't think I have any AWACS birds up, so I'm going to go ahead and launch one of my normal E3As.
Does the E3A have the same ELINT capabilities?
I don't think it has... It does have ESM gear. It's got ground mapping. I guess the... I'm curious now. The US E3Cs do. They've got ELINT gear, but it doesn't look like the Saudis actually have ELINT gear. So no, it doesn't. That may be why they bought the E3As or the RE3As. Basically to take that that ELINT gear from the E3A and move it, basically have that capability. Well, that was my own fault. That was really expensive bait. Oops. Alright, so strike aircraft looks like they've all returned to base. Let's see, how long do we have left on reload? So, about 9.5 hours. It's a good thing this scenario... See, the thing is that I only have 18 hours left to go, so if they take 10 hours to reload, that's going to give me 8 hours. So I don't have a whole lot of... I thought I had plenty of time to do this scenario, but 10-hour reloads basically is going to give me one more. And then I'm not going to have any more strikes after that. Yeah, Moose, I mean, Moose, you can do World War II, but I don't know if U.S. versus Italy is actually possible. No, I guess okay, KA-44 and BF-109s are in, yeah. I mean, you could do it. Alright, so E3A is up now. Go ahead and have him turn on his radars. Since he actually has ground mapping radar, he may actually be able to just get a ground fix on those missiles. All right, well, we can go back to 15-second time compression here.
So that would be similar capabilities, something like Joint Stars, or does that? I'd imagine that would have more.
I think the US E3s have this. I think they have the same capability. So E3C. I guess no, they do have surface search. They air search, surface search. So I think it's the same capability that U.S. E3s have. Although no, they actually have a separate radar in the Saudis that is ground mapping. So yeah, so they may have combined the Joint Star capability with the E3, and then the RE3 is basically the rivet joint. That's really interesting. It's kind of amazing to see like what you think is just normal like hardware or copies of hardware. It turns out to be something completely different. Um,
I was under the impression we stripped avionics out of certain packages we were exporting.
yeah, I mean, there's you always get that though. There's always some just because of export rules and this that and the other. There's always that sort of thing.
But an aircraft like an E3, there's no point in having it if you don't have radar, but maybe not all of the radars are needed.
Well, I think in the E3 there's just that one. There's just the really big one on the above the fuselage. Maybe for the Saudis, just for their own doctrine, maybe they just thought having the Joint Star function combined with the E3 function was just made more sense to them.
I thought it was the US version that had both, not the Saudi.
No, the U.S. E3s have ELINT gear, whereas the Saudis have a ground mapping radar separate from. They've got an air search radar and they've got a separate ground search radar.
Oh, okay, then I confused the models. Never
So
mind.
they essentially combine the Joint Star and the Saudis essentially combine or essentially combine the Joint Star functionality with the capability of an E3, and then they took essentially I don't know if they took the exact equipment or ELINT gear out of the E3, but then they basically had the RE3s, which are the kind of their equivalent of the rivet joint for the electronic recon.
But I think this scenario surprised me the most was that Saudi Arabia had DF-21s, which I looked it up and I think they bought like 60 of them.
They have what?
It was 60 DF-21 ballistic missiles they bought from China.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, the Chinese are no different than anybody else. It just kind of surprised me that they had given that to. Because isn't the DF-21 the one that supposedly carries their so-called carrier kissel or carrier killer missile or
Yes.
reentry vehicle?
Yeah, that is the one. So you'd think that they wouldn't want it in any allies of the US's hands where we could examine the capabilities of the missile, but I guess it's fine if they don't have the carrier killer warhead or the carrier killer reentry vehicle that actually maneuvers.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think. I would think that it doesn't have that reentry vehicle or whatever, is on there. So,
Well, I looked at the models, at least in game, and it would seem that they only have the Land Strike model. I don't think Saudi Arabia would have much need for the naval model with their current situation in the world.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, the only one, I mean, the land attack makes a lot more sense from theirs. I mean, unless they want to try and hit the Indian carrier from Riyadh.
They could wait until it goes into dock and then hit it.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
And I don't think they would dare try that either.
no, I'm not saying that like they would do it. I'm just saying like that's the only. I mean, to use the so-called carrier killer against Iranian gunboats and frigates is mm,
I
probably
don't know.
probably one of the definitions of overkill, maybe.
we're talking about nukes for overkill. That is the definition of overkill, not carpet nuking something, but using a DF-21 on a patrol boat.
I wonder if the DF-21 can even. I'm gonna have to play around with that. That's one of those things of like, what is the hit probability of a DF-21 on a patrol boat?
I'm gonna go ahead and guess not.
I mean, then again, I have my own personal doubts about the effectiveness of the DF-21, but that's just me.
Uh, well, in the military, I learned always assume the worst and be very happily surprised when it turns out that the enemy isn't as confident as you thought they were.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I mean, one, I think any sort of conventional ballistic missile is just a stupid idea anyway.
I agree, not to get into politics, but it just the fear of what retaliation could come.
Yeah, I mean anything on any sort of ballistic trajectory, you know. But yeah, I mean that's yeah. Try not to go into politics here, but just anything on like any sort of ballistic trajectory like that is like.
But back to strategy, there's one thing I would say, and that is if I had to take out an airfield for a scenario like this, I wonder what if you took out the runways of bases that you knew had Tomcats, for example, could totally turn the scenario around.
You see, that's one of the, you know, I didn't when I had those DF-21s, I never actually thought to target the runways. But you see, the runways though, like, let's take Isfahan over here. It's got 3 runways.
So that would use up most of your DF-21s just to take out that one airfield.
That uses 3 of. I don't know if that's a Tomcat base, but just looking at airfields here.
If they had 60, yeah, you
got
got
over here
3.
If we go over here to like say Tehran, the Mehrabad's got 2 runways, so it's like any of these I take out, you'd end up using the majority of your missiles, and we also saw how well the DF-3s worked, and by worked by I mean every single one of them missed.
I think they probably made a bunch of people mad as they had to leave the chow hall and go into the bunker for a few hours.
Yeah.
Now, it would be an interesting mechanic, but of course they're never going to implement this, or at least I don't think they would. Anytime all the crews need to go into a bunker, any aircraft being serviced in a non-hardened building doesn't get serviced for an hour.
I think that's probably digging a little too much into the weeds of the game.
Yeah, it's just, well, the only thing I could take away from Afghanistan that would apply to this game.
And if they do that, then they have to add like that little bit of like disgruntlement to like the ground crews for having to miss chow.
No, they would just eat while they're working on the vehicle.
I thought that group was going to come in on me, but then they turned around, so guess they're not coming in. I may have to play some of this offline this weekend and kind of like fast forward until the point where something happens.
Yeah, because I don't suppose your strike packages are going to be ready for another few hours.
About 9 hours. 8 hours. Let's see.
That sounds like they have pretty poor reload times on their stuff.
Well, what I think Coiler did is he has them set to not quick turnaround, or enable quick turnaround is turned off. Or they're turned off for strike aircraft, which I don't think they can be turned on for strike aircraft anyway. No, I'm sorry.
You have air-to-air assets ready.
No, I'm sorry. I will actually have my alarm SEAD aircraft ready in about 4 hours, and my F-50 or my Tornadoes with paveways and Storm Shadows. Storm Shadows will be ready in about 10 minutes. And
all you need to do is avoid SAMs or use the Storm Shadows to take out any targets that you're
Yeah.
worried about SAMs.
And the pave-ways will be ready in about an hour, so actually may get another round of strikes out of them after all.
Oh, looks like you actually will have some action this game
Yeah.
or this playthrough. I mean,
By the way, everybody, if you're watching, we are in my Discord voice chat. If anybody wants to drop in and talk, you can use the command I Discord to get the information in the Twitch chat.
back to what I was saying earlier
Oh,
about
sorry.
the.
Didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Just I just thought of this now. Actually, what I was saying about hitting runways. Another reason it would be a bad idea is I don't think you can guarantee that one DF-21 would kill a runway without a nuclear warhead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the same thing too. It's like even if you did launch all the DF-21s at an airfield, killing the runway isn't a guarantee. So
Now, if the game was modeled and you hit all the known fuel locations, and it was modeled to expend fuel, maybe, but even then, I don't know. I'd imagine they'd have reserve or protected underground tanks.
see, I'm actually happy that that little bit isn't modeled because it's already annoying enough to have to make multi-unit air bases, let alone have to make multi-unit air bases and start adding fuel to the air base.
Yeah, I was working on a scenario. I forget the Chinese base. It was a sub base, uh, which I couldn't even find on Google Earth. I think it was Yulin. It was one of the major bases on Hainan Island. I was looking into maybe making a base there to have a U.S. carrier versus China mission where you could attack it.
There's actually already a couple of those if you're looking for one. I think
I
there's
saw Shenzhen Strike or whatever. Yeah,
I think there's actually two. There's another one. I strictly remember two.
I know Moose always tries to get me to play the Red Dragon Descends, but I took one look at it and said, it looks like an awesome scenario, but maybe a time where I'm like off for a month or something.
Yeah. I don't really play too much of the Chinese scenarios. I was actually kind of surprised because when I probably shouldn't admit this because it's actually really bad to admit, but I mean when I started playing Peeling the Onion, it's actually the first time I've actually played Command like just for me, just for fun in a long time. Like a lot of the scenarios that have come out for me have just kind of been pretty meh. It's like I don't want another Russia versus U.S. scenario.
I usually don't have like scenarios with defined goals. I just go along and then I realize I killed or lost aircraft and just add more aircraft to both sides with switching the switching sides in editor mode and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of like sandbox stuff, but it's like at this point, it's like, what haven't I sandboxed? And these days, whenever I try to sandbox something, more often than not, that turns into me just doing an actual scenario rather than actually just doing a scenario to sandbox and play.
And I must confess, it's not an efficient use of my time to where I basically spend more time making the scenario and deleting things and adding things again than I do actually playing.
Yeah, that's pretty much me these days. I mean, I spend a lot more time messing around the editor and doing like scenario research.
I know you don't like hearing the S word, but I finally actually got around to posting one of my scenarios to Steam.
Oh, my
I'll put it on the
ears.
forums.
Ow, my ears, my ears.
I'll even give you a copy of it. If you'd like, I could even put it on a CD drive and mail it to you.
It's not that I don't like Steam because, well, my Steam library would give me away on that. I just don't like Steam for Command.
I could see legitimate reasons why, although at the same time, if it wasn't for Steam, I doubt I would have learned that this game simulator existed.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's brought a lot of people to the game that otherwise probably would never have found it. It's just I think it's might also have done just as much harm as
Well, I haven't been to the forums yet, so maybe I'll learn that when I eventually actually go there.
I avoid the Steam. I would avoid the Steam forums.
No, 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 no.
Oh no, like
I didn't mean those
the
forums.
the command forums are great. I mean the actual Matrix command forums, no issues there at all.
But
Um,
I mean, I was just overwhelmingly glad. I saw two games. One of them will not be mentioned. Uh,
Naval
was
War, Arctic
just
Circle.
something like that. But I bought that because it was $20 and just looked at Command afterwards and said, if that's going to give me the joy of playing like Fleet Command, except even better, I'm going to use that instead and just bite the bullet and end up spending well over $100 for it. And I was glad I did. If you think about how much time I spent on it, it's pretty cheap actually.
On Naval War?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
sorry.
That one was a complete waste of money, even though I only spent $20 on it.
Sorry, I kind of zoomed out there when you were talking. Sorry, I wasn't purposely trying to ignore you.
No, that's right.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that the game that will not be mentioned, even though it was $20, was a complete waste of time. I thought it had potential, but then when I played it, I'm like, this is worse than Fleet Command because everything's bugged.
And no save during like
A major problem.
whose bright idea was to have a save not have a save game function in the middle of the
Yeah,
level.
because then I basically didn't strategize. All I did was aircraft spam and time compress and aircraft spam again.
I really I mean I went out and bought it like I was super looking forward to it and I did the same thing. I went out, bought it same day. I maybe played it the first day and was like, this is crap. And then to hear like the devs of like just constantly saying about how it was like really hard to do a save game during a scenario. It's like how hard can it be? Everybody has done this.
Yeah, like since forever.
Yeah. So that's pretty much. And then after that, it was like, well, at that point, we kind of. I think it was a. I want to say it was around that time, maybe a couple months later, maybe a couple months before that, Command got picked up by Matrix. And at that point, it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to worry about this then anymore. Winged Rogue.
But yeah, I find that for every amount of time I spend in Command actually playing, I spend looking at the database and actually learning what the units I'm about to use are, which is great because you actually learn stuff about it.
Yeah, the strange thing is, I find myself like I'll see a strange unit in the game, and then it'll be like, "Hey, let's go look at what this is," and then I start like, and then I get in the rabbit hole of like Google searching and browsing around the internet for a missile that was used like never.
Yeah,
Like I think until what Lugan did, I didn't know there was air-to-air nuclear missiles.
I knew there were from political science class, but that was all I knew about it. I just figured that, you know,
The joys of the '50s when they thought they could when it was just a great idea to put nuclear weapons on everything. Hey, let's have
in the 50s they had a nuclear aircraft.
Yeah, although I don't think that actually ever went really anywhere.
I would hope not. That just sounds like a terrible disaster waiting to happen. It's already scary thought with if a nuclear sub ever gets killed, what that's going to do or anything like that.
Nobody's going to be diving. I mean, well, nuclear subs have gone down. Wasn't
Like blown up and cause like a nuclear meltdown underwater or something. I mean,
wasn't Thresher a nuke?
I don't know.
I thought Thresher was SSN. Yeah, SSN. USS Thresher was SSN 593. And then you've got K. Was it 219? The one the the CIA raised. So, yeah, I mean, nuclear subs have been lost. I mean, I'm sure you're not diving on those any.
Yeah, and I suppose water would probably be decent for shielding everything else except for the fish that happen to be in the area.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not quite sure how that works because I know Thrusher went down east of Boston.
But just going down doesn't necessarily mean a nuclear meltdown either.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious, like, how that actually works. Like, if you have, basically a sub go down to crush depth, while the reactor is in progress. I mean, how or is working. I wonder how that actually works.
Uh,
Because at some point that process just stops. So I'm sure there's some contamination of the water at that point. But
yeah,
that's
that's
that's that's
definitely
getting
true.
way into it. All right, so new KC-135 or KC-130. I'm sorry, KC-130 is up. I'm gonna have one of my Airbus A330s returning to base here shortly, so need to get replacement airborne. Hopefully, this group of Eurofighters, they've got 11 minutes left before they can before their bingo fuels. So hopefully they can meet up with the tanker before.
There's no way to convince an aircraft that's RTB to not RTB, is there?
I think there is actually. Um, use refuel. Refuel state RTB. You can actually over here on the side under air ops. You can get no units do not RTB when fuel state is reached.
But if you mess that one up, I guess they'll crash.
But yeah, then if they run out of fuel, then obviously they'll crash. So
Brutal.
they're 11 minutes out. They're gonna be close. They're gonna, in fact, what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna take this tanker right here and I'm gonna turn him north. And I want him to keep going at loiter so he doesn't burn his own fuel. Because as soon as he refuels, he's gonna have to